As Indira Gandhi once stated, India wants to avoid a war at all costs, but it is not a one-sided affair. You cannot shake hands with a clenched fist. The roots of the 1971 Indo-Pak War were not external, but deeply embedded within Pakistan itself. In the spring of 1969, General Yahya Khan took over as president from General Ayub Khan, promising elections for 1970. What he failed to grasp, however, were the seismic consequences these elections would unleash. On December 17, 1970, the Pakistan National Assembly elections delivered a stunning result. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's Awami League, based in East Pakistan, secured an overwhelming victory. They won 167 out of 301 seats, more than double that of Zulfikar Bhutto's Pakistan People's Party. This outcome completely shattered the West Pakistani government's plans to maintain control. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and the people of East Pakistan were jubilant. This landslide victory reflected decades of simmering resentment against the dictatorial rule of successive military regimes in West Pakistan. Beyond religion, the two wings of Pakistan shared little in common. Mujib's clear mandate brought Bengali aspirations to a peak, with his six-point program promising to eliminate political and economic disparities. The election results meant that the president, prime minister, and most cabinet ministers would now be Bengalis from East Pakistan. For the people of East Pakistan, this victory was particularly sweet. Since Pakistan's creation in 1947, the Western province had relentlessly usurped the authority and resources of its eastern partner. Most galling was the attempt to impose Urdu as the national language on Bengalis, despite their rich linguistic heritage. All this, they believed, would now be a thing of the past. East Pakistan would finally emerge as Sonar Bangla, or Golden Bengal, with its unique cultural traditions intact. However, Sheikh Mujib had not accounted for the predatory nature of West Pakistani politicians and the military junta. Dismayed by the unexpected election results, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, unwilling to surrender power, threatened civil war if Mujib formed the government. President Yahya Khan, too, could not accept the prospect of power shifting to East Pakistan and relinquishing military rule. On February 21, 1971, President Yahya Khan dissolved his cabinet, imposed martial law, and on March 1st announced an indefinite postponement of the promised National Assembly session. This ignited Bengali fury. Decades of suppressed discontent erupted into widespread protests. Government and semi-government offices, both central and provincial, shut down. Agitated crowds flooded the streets. A curfew was imposed in Dhaka to quell the protests, but by March 3rd, Mujib's influence spanned across East Pakistan. He called for a non-violent, non-cooperation movement, but even he struggled to control the agitated mobs. The Pakistan Army was deployed to suppress the agitation, resulting in numerous Bengali deaths. Mujib demanded the withdrawal of troops to their barracks, threatening to intensify the agitation if his demand was not met. Surprisingly, Lieutenant General Sahibzada Yaqub Khan, the Lieutenant Governor and Martial Law Administrator, a balanced officer who had served with the Garhwal Rifles before partition, agreed to Mujib's demand. The troops were pulled back. This was seen as a great victory by the Bengalis, and Mujib became the de facto ruler of East Pakistan. Yahya Khan and the military viewed these developments with deep unease. On March 6, 1971, Yahya Khan announced that the National Assembly would meet in Dhaka on March 25th. Simultaneously, a massive airlift of troops to East Pakistan commenced. It quickly became chillingly clear that the proposed National Assembly meeting was merely a ruse, a tactic to buy time. All discussions during this period were a sham. On March 7th, Mujib addressed over 1 million people at a public meeting, making 4 key demands for participating in the National Assembly: withdrawal of martial law, withdrawal of troops, an inquiry into the army killings, and the transfer of power to the elected representatives. Yahya Khan responded by removing Lieutenant General Sahibzada Yaqub Khan, replacing him with Lieutenant General Tika Khan, who would soon earn the infamous moniker Butcher of Bangladesh. Tika Khan unleashed a reign of terror and destruction with few historical parallels. In what became known as Operation Searchlight, the Pakistan Army used machine guns, tanks, and rocket launchers against unarmed Bengali citizens. Men were slaughtered. Women and young girls were raped in an unprecedented orgy of violence by the military, an indelible blot on the officers and soldiers of the Pakistan Army. More than 1 million people were killed, and thousands of women and girls were raped by debauched Pakistani soldiers, led by their depraved officers. These horrific killings and rapes triggered a mass exodus. Men, women, and children fled East Pakistan, desperately seeking safety in India. Their numbers gradually swelled to over 10 million. Providing shelter, food, medical care, hygiene, and sanitation became the overwhelming responsibility of the government of India. The refugee relief burden alone was estimated at over $700 million. The tragic irony of this horrific Holocaust was its failure to ignite international condemnation from the Western world. They stifled their conscience at the altar of political expediency. The United States of America declined to acknowledge the insanity of the situation, failing to raise its voice against this mass slaughter by its protégé, Pakistan, whom it had always patronized. This remains an indelible blot on the reputation of the American government. Meanwhile, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was imprisoned and secretly taken to West Pakistan. His fate unknown. India's protests went unheeded by Pakistan and the rest of the world. Beyond the intolerable economic burden, the crisis created grave security problems for India. These consequences, economic, political, social, and military, were rapidly becoming unsustainable. President Yahya Khan of Pakistan, meanwhile, had agreed to broker a meeting between U.S. President Richard Nixon and his Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, with Chairman Mao of the Republic of China and his Premier Zhou Enlai. President Nixon was deeply gratified and greatly indebted to President Yahya Khan for facilitating this meeting. From then on, Pakistan, in his eyes, could do no wrong. India was effectively isolated by a Pakistani-Chinese-American nexus. When repeated attempts to find a reasonable solution with Pakistan failed, India sought assistance from the international community. Indira Gandhi, the Prime Minister of India, visited the capitals of major Western powers, requesting their good offices to persuade Pakistan to stop the genocide. However, the West, led by the United States, remained indifferent to the Holocaust in East Pakistan and India's dilemma. They turned a blind eye to the mass murder perpetrated by Pakistan against its own citizens. Western countries, following the US lead, accepted that this was an internal problem of Pakistan and therefore did not warrant intervention. The refugee problem, they stated, was India's problem, and a solution had to be found bilaterally between India and Pakistan. The West and the United Nations had, in effect, killed their conscience, equating Pakistan, the aggressor, with India, the aggrieved. Pushed to the wall, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi decided to enter into an agreement of friendship with the USSR. This was a crucial move to counter the unholy alliance between America, China, and Pakistan, and it would prove invaluable to India throughout the war. An agitated Indian public began to demand immediate military action against Pakistan, and pressure on the government continued to build. Towards the end of April 1971, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi summoned the army chief to a cabinet meeting. She asked him to march into East Pakistan, as the situation had become intolerable. General Sam Manekshaw, however, informed the Prime Minister that the army was not ready. He stated that his persistent requests to the Defense Ministry to make up shortfalls in arms, ammunition, and equipment had been ignored. Without these, the army was not in a state to go to war. He also informed the Prime Minister that the time was simply not ripe, citing valid political, military, economic, and climatic reasons against early intervention. This demanded a self-imposed delay. This delay, however, also encouraged Pakistan to continue its brutal violence in East Pakistan. It is to the credit of the Prime Minister and her government that they could withstand intense public pressure, deferring to the needs and reasons projected by the Indian military. It is equally to the credit of the Indian Army Chief that he could stand up to the pressures of both the government and an agitated public. A comprehensive review was carried out, taking into account India's state of arms and ammunition, equipment, training, commerce and industry, road and rail communication, climate, weather, morale, international opinion, and potential enemy options. All these factors pointed to a specific timetable for war that would best suit India. Sam Manekshaw emphasized that if war was inevitable and victory was the objective, Then the war had to be fought on India's terms. Indian leaders accepted his advice and adhered to his program. The armed forces used the intervening period to gear up, preparing thoroughly to meet the expected Pakistani offensive.